Hi, this is Rick Harsh, author and editor of Books, which are selling like hotcakes in the desert. Um, about a month ago, somebody asked me to do one of these booktubes on history books, best history books. And I thought to myself, good idea. Well, it's easy to think of the best one. It's the Mediterranean and the Mediterranean world in the age of Philip II. But I couldn't find Volume 1, and I looked all over, and I really wanted Volume 1 because one of the most important things about this book is that he writes about the history of the everyday world, and he concentrates on the 16th century, but he covers so much ground before that that you know it's worth reading for your first history book. I think it's the book to read to teach you how to read history or write history if you want. But I couldn't find that other one. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Didn't I do something on I like an asshole? I listed the best history books ever written. I probably put Carlyle in there on the French Revolution because the writing is so great. And I hope I warned you that if you don't know anything about the French Revolution, read a good deal about it and then read Carlyle. It's hard to figure out what the fuck's going on if you just read Carlyle. These magnificent, sweeping sentences that assume more knowledge than I had. But so I probably put that one in there. But this is the best, and I marked a couple of things just to give an indication of why I think he's so great. Uh, here's the kind of sweeping historical sentence, not written in with the sweep of Carlyle, but he says, "No one will underestimate the efficacy of systematic persecution carried out over a long period." I love when historians dare to get off the specific topic and say something that's generally true. No one will underestimate the efficacy of systematic persecution carried out over a long period. Um, you want to see how well it works? Look at Gaza from 1967 and the West Bank from 1967 till today. Um, Everybody can imagine that one way or another the war will end in Gaza, but they can't imagine how the fuck there's going to be two states or one state when you've got uh, how many years, 50, 60 years of settlements. How are they going to do that? How are you going to tell all these Russian immigrants, I don't know how many, close to a million since the 90s, that came to Israel because Russia was turning to economic shit. And, it's tough. It's tough. Okay, so then the next page, I guess, uh, we have the question: who can tell how many centuries passed before bells, originally from China, became the voice of Christian music and were placed on top of churches? Good question. He deals with the specifics of everything. I really wanted to read about camels, and that's in Volume 1. Um, he had some great point about camels that explained something that I've forgotten by now. And, well, so there you go. Best history book ever written. I have no qualms in saying that. But after that, I have to say, well, how about we just say that another really good history book, but not the best ever written, is Ibn Khaldun's The Muqaddimah, an introduction to history. Now, this was written, I don't know, in the 13th century or so? 14th. Yeah, okay. Well, I read this quite some time ago, but what really struck me was that, like a lot of histories, grand sweeping histories, it it posits a cycle, and that's always any kind of repeated movement in history is easy to refute with details, but it's also generally somewhat true. And what he talks about largely is how the cities breed corruption in human beings, and the people of the mountains get have their fill of it, and they come down and they wipe out the people from the cities. That was the great lesson of this book. And I don't know if I underlined anything in here. I didn't take the time to go through all the books, because there are only a few, and they really aren't only my favorites. The worst thing about this particular episode of BookTube is I can't find enough books. Because one thing I want to say about history books is that in rare cases, or maybe not so rare, I don't know, fiction can be the best history. The best example of that is another book that I couldn't find, and so I don't even know the author, but it's an Italian author. I read it in English translation, and it's called something like M something. I don't M for Mussolini. It's about Mussolini. So the first volume is the best thing I've ever read on the most instructive book I've ever read on the beginnings of fascism. Interestingly, I live in the area where fascism first became a plague on another people, the Slavs. And it was right here, and nearby. Trieste is very close to here. The Slovenes in Trieste were victimized by proto-fascists. And that book didn't mention Slovenes very often because the center was of fascist growth was more or less outside of to the landward side of Venezia. What are we? Not as far as Bologna, but damn, now I can't remember the city. But starts with an F though, pretty sure. And that book goes into great detail. It did use a lot of documentary sources, printed documents, but it did tell the story extremely well. Another example is Dasha Drndic's book Sonnenschein, which was translated into Trieste for the English, who they figured, I've mentioned this many times, I think, they figured the English reader wouldn't get the irony of Sonnenschein. But it's a great novel about the killing of Jews in Trieste and surrounds in World War II. And very much a documentary style novel, going so far as to list all the dead. And I've been to the crematorium. There's a nice museum. It's turned into a nice museum in Trieste. San Saba was the name of the salt making factory that was turned into the crematorium. And that, but oddly enough, it was. I think Italians are pretty touchy about it because it was built about the time the Germans took over, because the Italians were getting their asses kicked, and there was even a Slavic. I don't know where he was from. He was a general, maybe, I don't know, but he was one of the main people responsible for the crematorium. But it was there and is there in Trieste. Now another type of book, Lionel Casson, Ships and Seamanship in the Ancient World. These historians that go into great detail on a particular subject are often extraordinary. And so you get some of the same kind of thing you get from Braudel in his Mediterranean. You get some of the same. I think he probably learned from Braudel in one way or another, but you get some of that in here as well. But if you're not interested in ships and seamanship, you might not find it one of the great books you've ever read. If you are, and I wrote a history on seamanship. Where is it? It's called A Circumnavigation Through Maritime History, and I used all the books actually that I've mentioned so far, but this is my fun history. It's meant to be fun. Originally, my target was advanced maritime students. So, anyway, that's my contribution to the field. I wouldn't put it in the top 10, but you might. Maybe some of you won't read more than 10. I don't know. A lot of people don't read a lot of history. And then, of course, if you're going to list the best history books ever written, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Edvard Gibbon. I grabbed this off the top shelf of a very tall shelf, and I happened to get volume 3, and I'm wondering if there's a lot of coffee spilled on this, so I may have at some point read most excuse me, if not all of it. Oh, maybe I'm right here. There's a bookmark from Seshu Foster, great writer. If you want to read about, speaking of fiction and history, I do have something underlined here. Foster, his book, Atomic Aztecs, has the best description of the Battle of Stalingrad I've ever read. And it's crazy, but it's true. So the one thing, here, okay. Let's see. The pagan rites of genuflection, luminaries, and incense again stole into the Catholic Church. There's a point. But, they have his footnotes all along the side here. And one footnote, he's talking about someone, and he says he was a Protestant, but of a manly spirit. Gibbon was like Carlyle, worth reading just for the beauty of the language and the wackiness as well. Oh, here's another bookmark. Gorilla. And here's another bookmark. Okay, so this one has a lot of bookmarks, which means I kept thinking it was important to read on. So that's pretty much. Oh, the other thing I wanted. Oh, wait. Um, Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine. This book is so important that I think what I can say is that if you know in some way or another that the Reagan era marked a turning point in the style of empire and made life generally worse for the universe or the world or both, for people in the United States and for people in the way of the United States as the United States perceives it. Naomi Klein explains it better than anyone I've ever read. And if you suspect that the people who run the world today are going to be very difficult to remove, in which case global warming will kill us. Probably not me. I probably won't last till the real chaos sets in. But the reason things won't change, I'm not sure she says that. I'm reading the very last chapter, and I think she's trying to be a little hopeful, or provide some space for hope. But then again, she wrote this about 16 years ago. I don't know what she would say now, but she talks a lot about the Chicago School of Economics, Milton Friedman. I remember arguing against Milton Friedman, in 1980, 81. I'm by nature a Keynesian, in that I understand that if you, the politics and economics of austerity condemn people with no money to starve and suffer, even if they don't starve. And so you gotta pump money into the economy. You got to get everybody moving, and you got to tax people who make a shitload of money. You have to tax them seriously, and then trust in the adventure of say piloting a jumbo jet to interest people in doing it, instead of paying them 100 times the amount you pay your cab drivers or whatever it is. I think it was 10 back when I drove cab and my brother was a pilot. There's an argument. So she will explain what's in it and for who, and it's very comprehensive. It answers a question that I've often asked myself: what the fuck is wrong with South Africa? Why is the post-apartheid South Africa such a mess? Well, now I know, and I could have guessed. I'll give you some hints: privatization, deregulation. Now these are things that make no sense whatsoever. The privatization of water. Now that means that government need not exist at all, because the reason that we have government is that a collective decides what's best for everybody, on a very basic level. And and that started at one point probably with food, shelter, safety. Starting with food and shelter, though, and I include water in that. Health, but when you deregulate and you privatize, well, you know the answer to that. And I'm not going to go 20 minutes. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thanks.